Good day, viewers, and welcome to another OnSide SA soccer show. Paul, unfortunately, is a late scratching, and joining us shortly from his Fulham studio will be our regular UK correspondent, Stevie Braham. But we start off, as always, with our post-net last one standing competition, and finally, in our second competition of the season, we have a winner. In the most competitive competition so far, Derek Ramsey outlasted two outstanding performers in Ravi Naidu and Dave Harker after 13 rounds. Outstanding achievement, guys, and congratulations to Derek Ramsey in Cardiff. On to our current competition, and going into week 2, we had 487 entries. 340 were successful. The guys that went through were on Man City, West Ham, Aston Villa, Tottenham and Arsenal, while Brighton, Newcastle, Liverpool, Notts Forest, Leeds, Bournemouth, Brentford, Southampton and Leicester City took the unlucky guys out. As always, we mention our ladies who have entered, and 15 are into round 3. They are Carla Quintus, Dora Roussos, Marlene Laveau, Catherine Armstrong, Tennille and Montana Verners, Bianca Coote, Michelle Tovey, Melissa Barensa, Renee Roos, Ashley Berger, Sophia Bentley, Sue and Blair Miller, and Kelly Potts. Of our internationals still in, of which Kelly is our only lady still in, Francois Demy in Mauritius, Alistair Cohn in Dubai, Steve Griffiths in Singapore, while we have 4 guys in the USA, namely Andrew Riddell, Ian Byrne, and Mark and Kevin Faree. Our UK guys still going are Ken Moby, Phil Giles, Stephen Byrne, Steve Potter, Neil Horsman, Roger Scott, Nigel Swinbank, Calvin Cass, Charlie Pigram, Ark Horsman, Mark Abood, Dakota Horsman, Derek Ramsey, and our own Stevie Braham. Guys, the Friday match between Chelsea and Fulham is included in this round. So if you want to pick either side, 8 o'clock on Friday is closing time. So get studying, and I will send you your previous picks later today. We now cross over to our UK man in his Fulham studio. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Budge.
All right. I see Fulham only a couple of signings in the deadline day.
Yeah, it's interesting. Marco Silva had got on record saying he wanted 2 signings.
Okay.
We were hopeful there might have been another one. I know that they had a fairly late bid for Santa Berger of Sheffield United and spoke with his representatives, but the owner wouldn't sell him. But otherwise, he got the 2 he wanted, which was a midfield player and another right back.
Yeah, I must say I like the centre half that you got from Brighton. I think he's a good player. At least he'll add to the depth.
Yeah, I mean, we signed him in the summer, but he's been injured a bit. He hasn't played much, but he's certainly useful as cover.
Yeah. Steve, what's going on with Chelsea? What they're doing is, I can't say embarrassing, but I just think this the American owner doesn't know what he's doing. How do you see it?
Well, I mean, in some ways they're being financially astute because although they haven't broken FFP, but they're flouting the way that it's meant to be. What they've done is, as you can see, they've signed obviously players and putting on 8-year contracts, which means for FFP they're splitting the transfer fee over the length of the contract. So they're not actually breaching FFP, but it's crazy. They brought in now 8 new players. They brought in 18 since the new owners come in. You know, they've got a squad which is way too big. Serbian players who are going to be disappointed, and it's almost like they're just throwing money at them, trying to buy every young bit of talent. I was talking to a Portuguese person yesterday. Benfica paid 10 million 6 months ago for Fernandes.
Yeah.
They've just made 110, just over 95 million pound profit in 6 months. There's something not right. It's crazy.
Yeah. Now I've got a Portuguese connection, and she doesn't miss, and she can't believe the price. And the funny thing was, I had a look at the World Cup. He didn't start for Argentina in the World Cup. He only came into it and they got beat by Saudi Arabia. So if he was that good. But anyway, fair play to him. My only concern with these long contracts, I know the same happens with Phil Jones. These players don't have to leave. If you're on 150,000 a week, and I'm sure Fernandes is on a lot of money, he can sit there for 8 years and just reap the rewards. So, that's interesting. But I feel for Graham Potter because he's got a nightmare situation. Sally, Arsenal I thought did good business, Steve. Jorginho I thought was an astute signing or a clever signing. And I like Trossard from Brighton. I thought, while they won't be star, at least they've added a little bit of quality to the squad and going for the title. What do you think? A decent help?
Yeah, yes, definitely. And last year Arsenal didn't buy anybody when they might have had a top 4 place, and I think they learned from that. Yeah. But they didn't sort of go mad. They wanted Moses Caicedo from Brighton, but made a couple of bids. They weren't prepared to pay totally over the odds. They'd offered up to 70 million, which is still way more than Brighton had obviously paid for him, but decided that they won't be blackmailed into sort of paying something crazy. So they brought in Jorginho with a lot of experience. Trossard has already played for them, and he looked like, he's a dangerous player. So I think, they've obviously felt that they don't need to change the squad wholesale to finish in the top or top 2 at least. As you say, Graham Potter has a problem now. He's got far too many players in his squad. He doesn't know who his best 11 is at this moment in time. And then, as we said before, they now have a problem for the Champions League because they brought 8 new players, but they can only add another 3 to the Champions League squad that they had previously. So, there's going to be 5 new players and not going to be playing European football for however long they're in the competition.
Yeah. Steve, at the bottom of the league, it's quite interesting. I see Wolves signed Craig Dawson from West Ham. I know they've been defensively a little bit woeful. I think that's a great signing, especially as far as the relegation battle goes. I think it's a superb signing. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think a lot of people were surprised, and maybe we don't know the whole story as to why Connor Cody left. Because they've certainly missed Connor Cody, and Craig Dawson is in that sort of mould as sort of experienced player. He's sort of done better at West Ham. I think a lot of people thought he would. So I think he will add a bit of experience. And then, but the other teams at the bottom, like Bournemouth and Southampton, Bournemouth were the second highest spenders. Yeah. So new owners there are obviously decided that they need to throw money at this because with what you lose when you go down. So they're taking a gamble. It might not work for FFP if they do go down, but I think the Bournemouth fans certainly can't complain that the new owner and board who have come in are not going to try.
Yeah. Interesting, Everton didn't sign anybody. They sold their young star, Anthony Gordon. Sean Dyche is under severe pressure there, and if the fans don't get behind the club, they could go down.
Well, I think the whole timing of everything at Everton, obviously they let Anthony Gordon go because he just almost pretty much refused to play. Yeah. But they brought in Sean Dyche, who literally, within 48 hours of the transfer deadline ending. Yeah. It didn't give him any time. But I understand that Bournemouth, Everton, evidently sort of made inquiries to something like 14 different players and just couldn't get any over the line. There is talk today that they might be looking to sign Andre Ayew, the Ghanaian, who's a free agent and he's over in the UK. I've also read that Nottingham Forest are interested, which just seems crazy, having got so many more players. But I think Everton's need is probably greater, and I think if he was available, I think they'll probably sign him only because they desperately need somebody.
Need a few numbers, yeah. Well, they're going to have to man up, but it doesn't get any easier over the weekend. Steve, League Cup during the week. Newcastle, Man United looked that way going in. I watched the Newcastle-Southampton game. Tried hard, Southampton, but 2-0 down and 1-0 down from the first leg was always a step too far. Should be a good final, though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's the final, I think, that we were expecting, and I think a lot of people will look forward to. Obviously, on the one hand, you've got sort of Newcastle with their newfound wealth and their... is that the fans, we said this before, the fans, it's all very well, saying, we want to finish top 4, but you saw the excitement at James's Park, and then Newcastle fans been interviewed afterwards. They want a day out at Wembley. They want to win a trophy. It's been, as I say, since 1955 is the last time they won a domestic trophy. And United, it's been a few years now since they've won a cup, and they've got a fantastic sort of record in cup finals. So, I think it's all set to be a really good game, and I think it's hard to call.
Yeah.
But both are playing well, both are in form, and should be a really good game.
Yeah, I totally agree. 27th of February, I think that's a Sunday, is the final. Steve, now go on to the weekend Premiership fixtures, and the betting will come up shortly.
Yeah.
Fulham at Chelsea. How do you see it? Would you take a point?
Definitely take a point. I mean, look, we beat them a few weeks ago, but I think Chelsea. We did that without Mitrovic, and all things being equal, he will be playing.
Yeah.
Chelsea will change their team. I think we'll see. We're pretty certain we'll see Mudryk, who didn't play, wasn't at Chelsea when we played them. But I guess the only thing for us is that it might be that obviously Potter still hasn't, had what he wants is fit best 11 on the pitch together at the same time. So it might be, but look, we were fortunate, I think, to beat them. Obviously, our Felix getting sent off certainly helped us. Yeah. I think it'll be a tough game. I think with all the money that they've spent, I think the fans are going to be demanding instant success. It's a tough game for us, but I look at it as a bit of a free hit. We got 3 points against them recently. If we get anything at all, would be a bonus. Yeah, I totally agree. The longer the game goes, Steve, the crowd could turn. You know how fickle most fans are. Saturday lunchtime, Steve. Lunchtime kickoffs are always upset material. Everton host Arsenal. Can you see them taking anything? Well, this is going to be interesting. At the end of last season, Everton stayed up with a couple of big wins at home, and they were on a Saturday lunchtime. Sean Dyche hasn't got long to get a reaction out of his players. Yeah. On paper, you'd think that this is a banker away win. You look at Arsenal's record. Yeah. They've only dropped points in 3 matches this season. It's going to be very interesting to see what sort of performance Everton put in. You'd hope that they would rise to the occasion. This is it now for them. To say, apart from tinkering at the edges with a free agent or so, this is their squad, and they've got to make it count. I think Arsenal go into it playing with the sort of freedom they have. You can't see anything other than an away win, but it'd be very interesting to see what sort of reaction Sean Dyche gets out of his team. Yeah, I think Everton are going to have to be deadly on set pieces because they are going to get outplayed. But lunchtime kickoffs, we've seen some strange results. Next game, Steve, I don't know which way to go, but Aston Villa under Emery have won 5 or 7. Leicester, I just don't know. Every time I watch them, it looks to me like the players are going through the motions. Now, Maddison should be back, which obviously levels the playing field, but I still fancy Villa. How do you see it? Yeah, I mean, under Sir Emery, they've certainly come good recently, and as you say, 5 wins down to 7. Leicester are pretty inconsistent. I mean, they haven't won a league game since the World Cup. Obviously, they won a couple of cup games. They've got Maddison back. Whether or not he's firing on all cylinders yet. Tielemans, very interestingly, a lot of link with Tielemans at one point going into the transfer window, but it sounded as if nobody came in for him. So, they've kept the sort of midfield intact. I think it'll be a close game, but I think I wouldn't be at all surprised if Villa rightly start as favourites. Yeah, of the two, I like them too. I think there'll be goals there too, a lot of creative players. Steve, I'm all over Brentford to beat Southampton. I like the effort Southampton are giving. If it wasn't for James Ward-Prowse, this would be a 3-4-0 job game. I'm all over Brentford, Steve. I think they got top 7 European aspirations. I think 9 to 10 is a great price. How do you see it? Yeah, I think Brentford certainly should start as favourites. I was impressed with the second half. Southampton really put everything into it, and but for a miss from Armstrong, could have been level going into the last sort of 15 minutes or so. So. But whether or not that's taken much out of them remains to be seen. Brentford obviously haven't played. They weren't in the Cup, so they haven't played for a couple of weeks. So they're certainly going to be a bit fresher. I think Brentford will start as favourites, but I personally think it'd be quite close. Yeah, I think Brentford win, both teams to score 3-1. That's my bet. Yeah. Brighton too good for Bournemouth, Steve? Well, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now. You've got sort of Brighton, obviously, managed to hold on to Caicedo, and they did it in a good way. I mean, they basically said, look, we're not selling you, take a few days off, come back in training on Wednesday, to sort of diffuse the situation. And Bournemouth obviously brought a lot of new players in. he could throw them in, but obviously they won't have trained much or played together. So I think, based on Brighton's recent performances, I think that they'll start as favourites.
Yeah, I've got to fancy Brighton. I'm really impressed the way they're playing. And is it Yokomo, the left winger? Someone's coming in for him in the summer. Yeah. That's guaranteed. Where Brighton find these guys from, it's just unbelievable. To think McAllister, 4 million, he's going to go for 60 or 70. I don't know who their main scout is, but what an outstanding job he's doing. Steve, Man United, Crystal... Sorry, you're saying?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, that they're another one of these teams like Brentford that unearth sort of gems for a very reasonable price and then sell on and make a profit. Yeah. And that's the reason why the chairman, Tony Bloom, said they don't need to sell Caicedo. Yeah. I mean, they've made a significant profit on selling a number of players this year. So, they don't need the money. So, they were, the fact that Arsenal were offering 60 or 70 million, I think in the summer, if he really doesn't want to stay, they might look at taking it, but it gives them more time to replace it.
Yeah, and also, Steve, they've only got a couple of days to find a replacement. It's not like they came in early January to give you 4 weeks. They're coming on the Monday or the Friday, and we won him. So I'm happy for Brighton, especially obviously they beat Liverpool in the Cup. At Man United, Crystal Palace, Steve, the way United are playing at Old Trafford, it should be a comfortable victory, but I'm worried about the loss of Eriksen. There was a lot of craft that he gave, and Crystal Palace, I know they're a funny team, they are capable, but, I just worry about the loss of Eriksen for United. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there is no question, losing Eriksen. Obviously, they brought in Sabitzer, the Austrian, who was playing at Bayern Munich, although not starting at Munich much this year. But, we've seen him play. He's not a bad player. Not quite the same class as Eriksen, but look, they've won, I think, 12 home games in a row, League and Cup. Yeah. They're going to be confident, United. They're playing with a bit of a swagger up home. They sort of feel they are going to break teams down and score. So, I think they certainly start as favourites. Palace, you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes away from home they can be dangerous. But I just think the way United are playing, I think, and I know they played obviously last night, but I think they should be too strong. Yeah. And they want to keep that run going. They're obviously pushing hard to stay in the top four. Yeah. I think it's important for them to put in another big performance. Yeah,
I think also with Martial and Sancho coming back, it's just boosted the squad numbers-wise. Yeah. So there's a good feel around United at the moment. Even the fans are happy, and hopefully another 3 points cements our top four aspirations. Steve, I think this is the upset of the weekend. Wolves, Liverpool. Another Liverpool defender went down. I think it was Konate. Sitting with our mate Mark Aboud watching the Brighton game. He couldn't get excited watching him. And that's, we know how diehard Mark is. Wolves gave them 2 good games in the FA Cup. I know Liverpool ended up edging it with a good goal. I can see Wolves causing another upset here, Steve. What do you think?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you're sort of waiting for Liverpool to sort of kickstart their season, and they haven't quite done it. Yeah. Wolves, I think, obviously brought in 1 or 2 new players. They're capable. I mean, I know Liverpool played quite well there in the Cup, but Wolves gave it a go at the end. This is the sort of game that previously you would have said Liverpool to win comfortably, but I'm not sure they will. I think of the 2, I think Liverpool will start as favourites. Yeah. But Wolves are capable of holding them. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, and unless Liverpool can sort of break that Wolves defence down early, I think it could be a bit of a slog for them.
Yeah, I can't have Liverpool the way they're playing. They just won't have my money. Steve, Newcastle, if ever something is going right for a team, it's Newcastle. Against you missed a penalty. Mitrovic slipped, and against Leeds, I watched them 0-0. I think this is another tight game. I wouldn't surprise if this ends in a draw, Steve. I know West Ham have been woeful, especially away from home, but Newcastle, the Brazilian got sent off. I'm sure he's going to miss 3 games, and he's a key cog in that team. Do you think 6-10 is a good bet, Newcastle, Steve?
Look, I think the games to start as favourites. Obviously unbeaten at home. Yeah. So, with West Ham's away record. But as you say, you just wonder how much the game and the excitement of Tuesday is taken out of them. Yeah. And, it's sort of a little bit after the show as whether they could be, they'll raise them up. But look, they're pushing for that to stay at top 4 place. They're going to start as clear favourites. West Ham would have to put on a huge performance. Yeah. which they haven't done very often this season. So I think Newcastle rightly start as favourites, but I think you're right. I think it will be very close. It wouldn't surprise me. It's just a goal in it.
Yeah. This thing, I'm sure Guimaraes straight red. I'm sure, I don't know, Steve, I didn't look this morning. Is it 3? I know it's 3 games he misses, but will he be able to play this game and miss the next 3, or does he miss the next 3? I'm
sure he must miss the next one. It's straight red should be 3. It's 3 games.
Yeah, I thought he'd be suspended straight away, and he's a major player for them. Now, Notts Forest lead, Steve. I had this is over 3.5 bookings. I saw 7, 8 to 10. I'd put them in my bets, and the time I came to take the bet, it was 4 to 10. Yeah, this is going to be, this is bookings galore in my opinion. But I like Notts Forest, Steve. I just like what the manager Steve Cooper's done with them. They're a tough team to play. I know away from home, they had some chances against United last night. Unbeaten at 6 at the City Ground. I think an upset's possible here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, as you say, they've started to make themselves hard to beat at home, and I think that's going to be pick the points up that could well keep them up now.
Yeah.
They've added to their squad. Whether or not he's going to change it much, I think 1 or 2 of the new players probably be on the bench.
Yeah.
And look, Leeds are on their day. They play good football. They throw Jesse Mark. They just throw everybody forward, and they do get caught out of the back. And I think that could be their downfall. Yeah. I think it's going to be very close. Forest should start as favourites, but for me, there's definitely goals in this game.
Yeah, no doubt. And last but not least, Tottenham Man City ended up 4-2 a couple of weeks ago. Spurs manager Antonio Conte, Steve, I know he had a gallbladder. Will he be at the game?
No, my understanding is he'll be off recuperating for a little while.
Okay.
Obviously, after surgery, he needs to sort of stay away. Whether that will have any impact on the performance, I'm sure that he will make sure that his coaching team sort of will do, will follow his plan. But look, this is a big game. We saw, the crazy game the other week at the Etihad. Tottenham went in, surprisingly at that time 2-0 up at half time, and then City came back and blitzed them. Yeah. So, Tottenham have got a fairly decent record against City. So it really depends how that front three. Son sort of woke up and showed his goal scoring prowess the other day. I know it's at Preston, but took his goals well. Yeah. Harry Kane is second highest goal scorer in the Prem this season. City, you're not quite sure. They're not quite firing on all cylinders, but on their day, as we saw in that little spell in the second half, they can they can beat anybody. So I think they'll start as favourites. Yeah. I think it'll be close. The Tottenham fans obviously got a new player in, Porro. I'm not sure whether he'll play. If he does, I'm not sure it'll make a huge difference to the outcome. So, big game, but I think City will start as favourites. Yeah,
you just never know with City. I don't like what I come in, and with Cancelo leaving a Man City, there's trouble in the camp, and I think they've won the league was the last 4 the last 5. I think complacency setting in, Steve, and Pep trying to put his foot down before it's too late. On to the Championship, where we had a game in midweek. Luton Town scored late to beat Cardiff City. Yep. But Friday night, Steve, West Brom, I was really impressed with them when they got beat by Burnley the other night. If it wasn't Coventry, who will always give the top teams a game, I would make West Brom bankers of the weekend. 8 to 10, Steve, worth a bet?
Yeah, definitely. Terrific run. I think their form is second only to Burnley in the last 2 or 3 months. I think they'll clearly start as favourites. Coventry, there's always goals in their games. I think there will be goals, but Carlos Corberán has tightened up West Brom's defence. They're scoring goals. They brought in a couple of players. Yeah. I think that they'll clearly start as favourites. Yeah, my only concern was they've had 9 wins and 2 defeats in the last 11. One of those was at Coventry. But, they destroyed Preston, and I hummed and hard whether to make it my best bet, but I've changed course. But anyway, I still fancy West Brom. Big game, Steve. 2 promotion hopefuls. Well, one looks like they've already won the league. I'm surprised Burnley aren't favourites, Steve. I know Norwich have won their last 2 under the new manager. Which way do you see it? Yeah, I think the only reason they probably aren't favourites is because Wagner's come in and he's turned around a bit, and they've had a couple of big wins. Yeah. But if you look at Burnley's record, really hard team to beat. Dug deep against West Brom and came back and finished strong.
Yeah.
Still in the FA Cup. I think that for me, I think if there was to be a winner, I think I would fancy Burnley. But I think Norwich. It'd be interesting to see if how they play at home, because they've won a couple of big games away.
Yeah. And they've been scoring goals too, 4 against Preston and 4 the other day. So should be goals, Steve. It's on ESPN. I won't be watching. I'll be watching the Everton-Arsenal game, but I'll definitely tape it. Yorkshire Derby as well, Steve. Rotherham, Sheffield United, another informed team. Rotherham, I remember, went to Sheffield and upset them. Can you see another upset?
Yeah. I'd be surprised. I mean, obviously, having said that, watching the Wrexham Sheffield United game last weekend, Wrexham almost
sneaked it, yeah.
surprised them. I know that Sheffield rested 1 or 2, but even so, it was, they really had to dig deep to get something. Look, Rotherham surprised us recently. I found they beat Blackburn 4-0 when Blackburn were clear favourites.
Yeah.
They've just sold one of their players, Rotherham. I think they keep selling players, but keep fighting. I think Sheffield United are going to want to try and cement that second place.
Yeah.
To do so, I think they'll go there, and I think there'll be goals, but I think Sheffield United should just edge it.
Yeah, I just say watch them against Wrexham. They did look a little bit open gates at the back, so we'll see. Huddersfield QPR, got a good mate who supports QPR. 1 win in 13, not good enough. I thought they'd scored last week, cost me a bet. Huddersfield, Steve, I just can't get my head around them. I know they've got a new manager. I think there's a draw all over this. How do you see it?
Yeah, look, QPR's form has really dipped. They'd started the season well, were top or close to the top right at the beginning. As you say, 1 win in 13 isn't good enough. Huddersfield brought in 1 or 2 players. I think they're going to be hard to beat at home. And I think they should stay up. I fancied the 2. Look, last week QPR were beaten quite easily in the end, 3-0 at Hull. I fancy Huddersfield as the 2. I think that that QPR are favourites, but I fancy Huddersfield at home.
Yeah, you just never know. I think it's a draw in whichever way you like. On to our next page, Steve, mentioning Hull. Great result last week. I think 12-10 is a good bet against the Cardiff team. I looked at the stats against Luton in midweek. Luton had, I think, 13 corners, one-way traffic. Hull City have only lost 1 in 8. Cardiff haven't won in 10. I know they've got a new manager, but I think 12-10 is a good price here, Steve. How do you see it?
Yeah, definitely. I think Hull rightly will start as favourites. And, Cardiff, as they just brought in Sammy Lamouchi as the manager. He's only just got there, hasn't really changed much yet, and I think Hull should carry on with their run and let's start inching up the table. They brought in a couple of players. Yeah,
I think 12-10 in my bets. I think they're good things. Luton Town against Stoke City, Steve. I know the stats say Luton should win, but I've watched Stoke a few times. They're better away from home than at home. I think they can at least get a draw here. What's your call?
Yeah, I'm definitely capable. They've just sold Harry Suter at the back, who had a great World Cup for Australia, got them for a big price. They were trying to bring in Steve Cook from Forest, but he didn't want to go. Look, they had a good win last week, Stoke, comfortable in the end. I think, of the 2, I think Stoke would probably be favourites, but I think it'll be close. Yeah, I just thought the betting was a little bit cockeye in Luton's favourite. The way Middlesbrough are playing, Steve, surely they've got to outclass Blackpool? Yeah, I think so. I think they had a good win last week against Watford, who were were above them at that time. I think Michael Carrick had got them playing well at home, but for that cup upset against Brighton, their home record has been pretty good in the last few months. So I think they'll start strong favourites. Yeah. Bet of the weekend in the Championship. Millwall, Sunderland, Steve. I watched Sunderland beat Middlesbrough. A lot of good young players. Millwall at the Den, as we know, always hard to beat. Unbeaten in 8 at home, Millwall, but something doesn't gel about 12-10, Steve. I think goals is a formality in this game, but as far as an outright winner goes, this could go either way. How do you see it? Yeah, I think it'd be a close game. Sunderland, obviously, I saw last week. Fulham, it was a really good game, and they really had a go. And they got obviously they got the 2 fast wingers up front. Obviously, Diallo is not a championship player. He could easily be playing in the Premier League. Look, you can see why United they paid a lot of money for him. But they lost Ross Stewart, who's out pretty much for the season again now. Okay. So, I think on that basis, without an out-and-out forward, I think that Millwall will start as favourites.
Yeah, nice direct team and a bumpy pitch. Wouldn't blame you for taking 12-10, but I've gone the goal route. On to the next, my beloved Preston North End, who for 45 minutes held Spurs, even though you could see the difference in class. Yeah. Against Bristol City, I know we came up together years ago. There will be goals here, Steve. I can't trust Preston, even though we are in decent form, because we've lost our last 4 at home. Crazy. But Bristol City, another struggling side. I don't know, Steve. I'm going the goal route here. Give me confidence.
Well, as I say, Preston were doing so well. They were hard to beat, hard to score against. And as you say, they lost 4 in a row at home, which has really sort of thwarted their sort of playoff hopes at the moment. Bristol City had a big win the other day in the Cup, scored 3. They've let 1 or 2 players go. Some good young players coming through. I think I just got this feeling if there was to be a winner, it could be Bristol City. As I say, they score goals, and that has been Preston's problem.
Yeah, well, we've got Gallop up from Man City. He was at Stoke, good youngster, and we stole one of your players. Was it Anohu, the midfield player? So you never know, So you never know, but I saw 9-10 both teams to score over 2.5 goals. It was 12-10. I think the goals are a formality. Steve, Reading, Watford. I was disappointed in Watford, having watched the game against Middlesbrough. Plenty of good attacking youngsters. Defensively, they were woeful. And the same with Reading, other than that nutcase Andy Carroll who libertied Ericsson and then went over the top on, didn't over the top on Casemiro. I think there's goals in this, Steve. I just can't trust Watford, even though they are the better side away from home. What's your call?
Yeah, look, I think there certainly will be goals. Reading sort of score and concede. Watford don't concede that much. I think if Watford sort of dig deep, I think they can get a result there. Reading, they're flattered to deceive. They started the season well, but they lose too many games. And as I say, that was, Andy Carroll. They played quite well in patches at United, certainly in the second half, but while they went down to 10, obviously it was pretty much game over when Casemiro had scored. So I think it'll be close, but I think of the two, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Watford just edge it.
Yeah, I just not been for them away from home, Steve, and they've let me down a few times. That's why I said I'd rather go the goal route. Swansea City, Birmingham City. Birmingham can't buy a victory, only 1 win in 9. Swansea City, I've had a look, they've had a few up and down results, Steve, but they played the better teams. Of the two, I think Swansea City are good things. What do you think?
Yes, I think they should start as favourites. They sold Obafemi, who'd sort of scored a few goals for them. But, I think, they were a team I fancied to do really well this year. Yeah. And to say, their results have been very up and down. But Birmingham got off the book again. Lost in the FA Cup. I think that Swansea should be too strong at home.
Yeah, I watched Birmingham City at home to my Preston boys, and they were woeful by the last 10 minutes when they were just slinging everything up front. But should be Swansea. And last but not least, Monday night, Steve, Lancashire Derby, Blackburn, Wigan. I know Blackburn don't draw many games. I think it's 1 in 23. But they've got a great home record, and I think they'll be too good for Wigan. How do you see it?
Yeah, definitely. I think Blackburn will start strong favourites. Wigan, as we know, sacked Kolo Touré after 5 weeks. Yeah. They haven't won in ages, and I think Blackburn, as I say, the only reason they're still in playoff place is because they're not drawing games. They're either winning or losing. Yeah. And I think it's another one that they should certainly target. They get most of their squad intact. Ben Brereton Diaz has signed a pre-contract agreement with to go to Spain. Okay. Interesting that there was a time in the last year or so, a lot of big Premier teams were looking at him, but he obviously feels that he wants to move on. But he's there for the rest of the season. He didn't leave in January. I think Blackburn should win comfortably.
Yeah, so do I. Steve, pressure time again. I need your best bet and value bet, please.
Well, I think my best bet, I'm actually going to, we just talked about it, Blackburn Rovers. I think at evens with their home record and with Wigan bottom of the table, they haven't won in a while. I think Blackburn should start as clear favourites. Value bet is a tricky one. I was going between a couple. I was looking at Burnley.
Yeah.
I think that to me they should be favourites, but I might plump for Huddersfield at home.
Yeah.
QPR have been very disappointing recently on the road, and 2-1. I think Huddersfield at home should be a little bit too strong.
Yeah, my best bet is Brentford. I think 9-10 is a great price. I know James Ward-Prowse is dangerous, but I think they'll have enough. And I think one thing about Brentford, set piece wise, they are well organised, so they should be able to combat Southampton's aerial assault. But Steve, thanks again. Good luck tomorrow night.
Pleasure.
Are you going to the game?
Yeah. No, I'm not. But it's live on TV.
Yeah,
so
no, we'll have it. And Steve, thanks as always, and we'll speak to you over the weekend.
Much.
All the best.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's UK correspondent, staunch Fulham supporter over 50 years. Now on to the PSL, where we have two games surprisingly on Friday. The first game is Swallows against Richards Bay, and if ever there's a 0-0 game that should happen, this should be it. Richards Bay, they've only lost one of the last 13, and that was against Sundowns. A little bit unlucky, they got beaten in Blazi. Morocco Swallow, or the old Morocco Swallows, they can't score. Their last two home games ended 0-0. 19-10 the draw, I wouldn't blame you, but of the two teams, I think Richards Bay may sneak it, but if I was having a bet, I would definitely go the draw. Maritzburg, Amazulu, KZN Derby. Maritzburg going well until they got beat last week. Amazulu, I don't know. This new Spanish coach, from what I've heard, some of the players aren't happy with his methods, but they came back late to score against Richards Bay. Another game, a draw looks a good thing, but if I had to side with one team, I've liked what I've seen from Maritzburg of late, but a tough game. Chipper United, Stellenbosch. I fancy Chipper. 15-10, I think it's a good price in PE. Stellenbosch haven't won in a while, struggling to keep clean sheets. So of the two teams, it has to be Chipper. Golden Arrows, Royal AM. Last year, Royal AM at Chatsworth were unbeatable. Golden Arrows have lost 6 of the last 9. I was on them when they got beat by Maritzburg, and they won't have my money a game. If I was having a bet, I would take the 13-10, both teams to score. But if you didn't want to do that, another game where I think the draw, 21-10, is worth considering. Orlando Pirates against Mamelodi Sundowns, a big game of the weekend. Got to be with Sundowns. They've won their last 14, the last 6 away from home. And even though Orlando are hard to beat at Orlando Stadium, and they did beat them 3-0 in the MTN 8, it's hard to go against Sundowns. Pirates are scoring a few goals of late, but 9-10 Sundowns does look a good thing. Supersport Cape Town City. I watched the game in Cape Town on a terrible Cape Town Stadium bumpy pitch, and Supersport edged them 1-0. Hard to beat at Attridgeville, but I saw 13-10, both teams to score. That's the way I'm going to go. I know Supersport are even money favourites. I think the betting should be a lot closer, but 13-10, both teams to score is my suggestion. And I can't believe Sekhukhune United are 19-10 at Maruma Gallants. Maruma Gallants last 3 at home in the Northwest. They've lost all 3. Struggling to score goals and keep clean sheets. Sekhukhune going well. They've won 4 of their last 6. They only lost to Mamelodi Sundowns 2-1. 19-10 for me is in my bets, and I have had a bet. And last but not least, TS Galaxy against Kaizer Chiefs. I read the reports that Arthur Zwane was fired, so I was concerned what would happen with Chiefs until I saw him on the sideline. TS Galaxy always gives Chiefs a hard game. Under 2.5 goals is the way to go. If I had to side with one team, hopefully the momentum with Chiefs. Got a lot of young players. Let's hope they can get back to winning ways. But for me, 2-1 the draw looks the right way to go. On to our soccer exotics for the weekend, and we kick off with our Gold Circle Score 6. I've thrown the draw in with Arsenal for the pure reason the early kickoffs, the manager bounce factor. I wouldn't blame you if you did bank your Arsenal, but I'm taking a chance. I've thrown the draw in Arsenal and the draw at Everton. I've gone the field in the Aston Villa-Leicester City clash. I'm bankering Brentford to beat Southampton, Man United to beat Crystal Palace. I fancy the upset in the Wolves-Liverpool game, so I've gone the field there. And I've thrown the draw in Newcastle United at home against West Ham United, 2-1-6. On to other soccer 6 for the weekend. I'm going Chipper United, win and draw at home against Stellenbosch. The field in the Golden Arrows versus Royal AM game. I'm chancing Mamelodi Sundowns to beat Orlando Pirates. Going Aston Villa, win and draw against Leicester City. The field in the SuperSport United Cape Town City game. And I'm going for Sekhukhune United to beat Maruma Gallants 2-1-6. Onto our Gold Circle score 10. I'm going Arsenal, win and draw at Everton. Likewise, Burnley, win and draw at Norwich City. I don't see Sheffield United losing at Rotherham United. I'm going the field in the Aston Villa-Leicester City clash, banking Brentford to beat Southampton. Onto our second page. I'm going Brighton and Hove Albion to beat Bournemouth, Man United to beat Crystal Palace. The field in the Wolves-Liverpool fixture, Newcastle United win and draw against West Ham United, and ended up in the Spanish La Liga, where I think Atletico Madrid will beat local rivals Getafe 2-88. Onto the tricky soccer 13. I'm going Newcastle win and draw against West Ham United. I'm banking Man United to be too good for Crystal Palace. Looking for Wolves to avoid defeat at home against Liverpool. And three bankers. Aston Villa to beat Leicester, Brighton to beat Bournemouth, and Brentford to beat Southampton. I'm chancing Queen's Park Rangers to avoid defeat at Huddersfield Town. The second page sees us go for Hull City to be too strong at home for Cardiff City. Luton win and draw at home against Stoke City. Millwall win and draw at home against Sunderland. And another home win and draw, Preston North End at home against Bristol City. I don't think Watford will lose at Reading, and ending up with a banker. Swansea City to beat Birmingham City 2-56. Onto our budgies bets for the weekend, where I'm going Wolves +1 handicap, which is similar to the double chance against Liverpool. I'm going Brentford to beat Southampton and both teams to score. And then both teams to score in the second half between Tottenham Hotspurs and Man City, 4,000 to 200. Our team goals only, I'm going Everton to score against Arsenal, and Brentford, Brighton and Tottenham all to score over 1.5 goals, 2,600 to 200. Onto the championship, where I'm going Hull City to beat Cardiff. I'm going for Middlesbrough and Blackburn to beat Blackpool and Wigan Athletic, and over 2.5 total goals in each game. 16.5 to 1, so 3,300 to 200. Both teams to score sides are Rotherham Sheffield United, Millwall Sunderland, Preston Bristol City, and Reading Watford, 2,500 to 200. Onto the PSL, where I've gone for a treble. I'm going Mamelodi Sundowns to beat Orlando Pirates, Sekhukhune United to beat Maruma Gallants, and both teams to score in the SuperSport versus Cape Town City match, 2,200 to 200. And our Collis King, 6 or Nixa. I'm going Brentford to beat Southampton, Brighton to beat Bournemouth, Man United to beat Crystal Palace, Middlesbrough to beat Blackpool, Swansea to beat Birmingham City, and Inform Napoli to beat Spezia, 2,900 to 200. Thank you for listening to our OnSide SA Soccer Show, and please remember, stay safe. Until next week, goodbye.